So, good afternoon from Accra, and good evening to our colleagues in East Africa and to our colleagues from North America and Europe. North America, we say good morning. So, thank you very much for making time to join us for the information session of our third call for proposals. So, today, the main objective is to walk you through the grant facility and support you with provide more information on how you can access this sub-grant award to conduct research in the area of agent network. To begin with, we'll have some few housekeeping for your information. Next slide. Great. So this presentation or this information session is being recorded and it will be uploaded on our website. So in case during the application process you want further information, you can just go onto our website and you have access to this recording. We also encourage all of us to mute our audio when we are not talking. And if you want to ask a question, we encourage you to use the raise hand icon. And also make use of the Q&A, the chat section of the platform to ask any questions as the presentation go on. We'll have colleagues in the chat to answer those questions, and also there'll be opportunity to read those questions at the end of the presentation and provide more answers to them. So please feel free, once the presentation is going on and you have a burning question, feel free to put it in the chat box and we'll attend to it. Great. So I will now welcome the Director for ESAIL, who is also the Executive Director of the Retail Finance Distribution Research Initiative, to take us through what this initiative is all about and what the focus and how you can prepare yourself to win a grant. Professor Peter Porte, thank you.
All right, so thank you very much, and greetings to all of you. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you've connected from. You're welcome to our third call. We normally do this to get a feel, for you to get a feel of what we are expecting. At least that will help, that will guide you in preparing your proposal. It's not the final. We have the framework paper online. You can also consult the framework paper and be guided by it accordingly. So what is REFIND? REFIND is an initiative at the Institute of Statistical Social Economic Research. It's funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Our initiative aims to deepen digital financial inclusion among the vulnerable and excluded, especially women, poor households, SMEs, and other retail businesses. What we aim to do is to demonstrate how effectively we expand the reach of agent networks through public policy and commercial solutions that can plausibly be scaled, and also to demonstrate how to advance public knowledge of the structural constraints limiting agent networks. So if you're writing a proposal, just ask yourself, what are the structural constraints facing agent businesses, agent networks? Then what solution can you provide? I think once you have this key information, you are good to go. So what are the constraints and what can you do to relax the constraints? Our structure is as you see, we have a management committee comprising myself, Professor Francis Annan, who I believe is online, Dr. David Ameya, Dr. Simon Bayachile, and then Ms. Adezua Otu. Then we also have a policy committee that is basically aimed at promoting policy uptake, helping us to shape our research to fit into policy space. So the names you find, Professor now Emeritus Professor in Saite, Mr. Kwame Ejapon from Bank of Ghana, Mr. Beneza Chung Asante, the Vice President, MTN, and then Mr. Kalashi from Ghana GCB, Momo. Then we have Ms. Rashmi Pillai from Asia. We also have a scientific committee comprising myself, Francis Milo, based in France, and then we have Professor Dan Tanika, based in Asia, Vera Fiador, based in University of Ghana Business School, David Amayao, Isa and ICE, and then Dr. Sedgas from the Gates Foundation. Then we have the project staff, others who introduced themselves not a while ago, that Luther called the grants manager. Then we have Daniel Safo, a postdoc. We have Karim Suglu, the accountant. We have Vicentia, our communication person, Ebenezer Akwa, the ICT person, Mariam French from communications, and Derek, our research assistant. So that's the operational structure. We have a great team of people to work with. Can we go to the next slide? In terms of our approach, the initiative aims to drive cutting-edge research through sub-grants. So we're going to give sub-awards, and that is why we have invited you this afternoon. So our approach is to catalyze collaborations among researchers, policymakers, and financial service providers. So it's not just researchers, but that kind of collaboration is quite needed. Then we also experiment with practical solutions for expanding the reach of mobile money and agent banking, connecting low-income household, women, vulnerable populations to formal financial services. We tend to support high-impact research projects with the potential for publication in high-impact factor journals. And I emphasize that if we give you the grant, we expect you to aim to publish in very decent journal outlets. Then also support the dissemination of research insights. We're going to have policy briefs, blogs, and many other things that will share and sell the message that we provide. Next slide. Okay, so these are some of the key areas that you should focus on, particularly about supply side interventions of digital financial service markets, and emphasize supply side, not demand side. So your thinking, everything should look at how you're responding, relaxing the constraints to promote the supply side or digital financial market. By thereby opening, assessing broader market level implications, impacts, understanding the impact of supply side interventions on all market players, including consumers, household, small and medium enterprises, the agents themselves, commercial providers, and regulators. We are very much interested in commercial solutions. So it's not just research, commercial solutions. So if you can partner with commercial solution provider, a policymaker, an academic, that would be great. Also, understanding the impact of competition in the market is also transparency, competition issues. And to accomplish this, we are looking for strong partnership between academic researchers, policymakers, and commercial providers to conceive and implement mutually relevant research questions. That is very key. And therefore, our friends and colleagues in the global north, we encourage you to partner with researchers, commercial solution providers, etc., in the global south, where the data is going to be collected, where the activity is going to be taking place, so that we have a blend and we're able to achieve great outcome. Next slide. So our focus on agent banking covers the organization of digital financial retail services, vendor incentives and behavior, constraints to the expansion of the digital financial service retail distribution network, the impact of policy interventions on retail distribution practice, relevant regulations and other institutional arrangements that impact agent density. So these are all the things that might inhibit or limit agent expansion. Then women's access to digital financial services. We encourage you to look at those particular areas. Next. So these are some of the richest questions that we want you to explore. What factors inform the choice of digital finance model in the various countries? That is bank-led, MNO-led, or mixed? And to what extent does the efficiency objectives for digital finance providers and the environment in which they operate influence the choice of the model. These are key questions. Who are the relevant actors? It will be regulators, it will be money, MNOs, it will be banks, consumers, uh, agents, and many others. So I think we should look at that. We want you to also look at comparative studies uh, between countries. They can do qualitative or quantitative work. In fact, we encourage comparative studies. We don't have much so far. We don't have many comparative studies, and we think that a study looking in that direction would be extremely helpful. So comparative study across countries, be qualitative or quantitative, and possible survey, some RCTs, that would be wonderful. Next slide. Next slide, please. Here again, there are more questions, and then our sub-grants for commercial players. We cover interventions covered by the grants, whose design of innovative interventions will extend the agent network to hard-to-reach communities, develop evidence that take research to inform the design, test innovations on a pilot experiment, purchase technology to facilitate the rollout of the agent network, facilitate partnership, undertake special training to build capacity, etc., etc. Next slide. Yeah. So we have the different categories of the sub-grants. So we have proposal development, and that covers time, resources to develop a proposal for a pilot natural experiment extension or greenfield. Let me emphasize that I think at this stage, we don't encourage much of proposal development. We would rather focus on pilot, natural experiment, extension, greenfield, etc. So please be minded to do so. Yeah, so no, next, previous slide, I haven't finished. I think. Yeah, so we have the pilot projects, and that will give you grants of 60 to 40 to 60,000, where you can conduct 3 to 6 months pilot studies aimed at developing and testing interventions. We also have the natural experiments that you can undertake quasi-experimental research, such as utilizing variations from a regulatory change that enables observation of difference between individuals or regions exposed to the change and those not exposed to the change. So if, for instance, there's redenomination of a currency or there's a e-currency, what change, what innovation can do some experiment to see how it's impacting on the agent network, etc. Then we have extensions to undertake component of an ongoing experiment to an end line. Maybe you have a baseline survey, you want to expand or do some follow-on activities associated with a completed project or experiment. We welcome that. And the grant amount will be 100,000 to 125,000. Then the big one, the greenfield evaluations, that you can conduct rigorous impact evaluations, working with treatment and control groups with larger interventions for a period of up to 3 to 4 years. So basically, these are the different categories of sub-awards that we give or we have given in the past. Next slide. Right, so who can apply? RFE is open to institutions interested in the research or benefit from research outcome on agent network. So emphasis is institutions. So if you come together, you apply through an institution because we can then identify the institution you work with. We don't work with an individual person who applies and wants to go solo. We want you to work with others through an institution so that we can disperse funds through an institution, not to an individual. Okay, so research institutions, agent network commercial providers, industry associations, policymakers, development organizations, etc. The project must be based in a low and middle income country in Sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, or South Asia. So this is the regional or the coverage of the project or proposal if you want to put in one. Next, please. All right, so these are the existing projects we have funded so far, just to serve as a guide. So you know, in case you want to put in one, you know, if there's an area that has been overfarmed or has been, you know, and then you approach it accordingly. So we have one from ISA. We have some from Nigeria. We have proposals from Nairobi. We have one from UC Berkeley, and then Ghana Statistical Service census data. Next. Then we have IPA, Sierra Leone, UC Berkeley, and then we have Labra University collaborating with people, researchers in Ghana, looking at CCTV security interventions. We have an ISA one on digital finance as a tool for reducing leakages in rural retail banking. Then there's a NISA proposal development on the CISO network. Next. So far we have funded 17 projects that are, some are ongoing, others have finished the pilot stage. So if there's anybody in this group who has finished his pilot, we encourage you to apply for either an extension or a greenfield sub-award, and we are very much willing to engage with you. Let me also say that if your proposal did not go through, doesn't mean you should throw the proposal away. Get in touch with us. We'll send you comments. So use the comments to revise and resubmit at the next call. Don't throw any proposal away. Great ideas come. Let's help you shape it and get funding. Thank you very much, and we look forward to engaging you very soon. I will then hand you over to the next the moderator so that he will take you through the next session, how to apply for the grant. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Peter Cote, for taking us through the call. Our next item will be to go through how to apply for the grant. But before that, I just want to let you know that we've put a link in the chat box for colleagues who were not, for our participants here who were not able to register for this call, so that we can get your details. So please kindly go into the chat box if you were not able to register for this call, so that whenever we have any subsequent calls or any activity coming up, we can send you the information. So that's the reason why we put the link in the chat box. I can see some hands up. I encourage you to put your questions in the chat box and we will address it. Thank you very much. So the next person to continue with the presentation is our grants manager, Setnu Tapo, who will take us through how to do the real application, what we are looking for, the documents and how to upload them and all that. So Seth, you're welcome.
All right. Thank you very much, Ades. And thank you, Prof, for the earlier presentation. So how do you go about putting in your application and what is the process? Okay, so in terms of application, we are receiving applications through an online portal called the Reviewer Portal. On the RFP, we have a link to the online portal. Once you click on the link to the online portal, it will take you to a page like the one you have over here. It gives you all the instructions and all the guidelines for you to be able to put in your application. It's a very simple, user-friendly platform where you can be able to go in, put in all the requisite information that you have, attach the necessary details, and then you are good to go. Once you submit your application, you will receive a notification from the system that your application has been successfully submitted. So in terms of the application, it is via an online platform and not via email. However, you can reach out to us via email if you have any challenge in terms of the application, and we'll be glad to make sure that we provide the necessary support to you. Now, what do we require from applicants? Like I indicated, the narrative proposal, which is what you put in on the system. So we have fields in the system where you put in the details of the various PIs, your methodology, everything, you put it into the system. So your narrative proposal is put into the system. We have a detailed budget template. Once you go into the system, there's a link to the budget template. You download it, complete your budget, and then upload the budget accordingly. The system will not allow you to proceed without the attachment of the budget. So we have some controls in there to ensure that you attach your budget to your proposal. We also ask that you attach your timelines or your Gantt chart indicating how your duration of the project and what are the various stages that you will be taking on the project. Again, we request that you provide a support letter from the host institution. So let's say you are applying from NISA. We need a support letter from NISA indicating that, yes, they are in support of this proposal that you are applying or this grant that you are putting in. And then finally, where applicable, we again request for a letter of support from the collaborating institution. So your project be targeting working with an MNO, a mobile network operator, or a financial service provider. We need some letter of support to indicate that there's collaboration, the MNO or the financial institution is in support of this research that we are going to do. So these are the documents that we require from our applicants, and we require that all these documents should be attached to the application before it is finally submitted. In terms of our processes and our timelines, we issued a call way back on the 25th of March. We having our info session today. We have another info session for 3rd of May targeting the East Asia and then South Asia region. Our deadline for submission is expected on the 17th of May, 2024, and then we'll go through a selection process where we'll have external reviewers reviewing the proposals, we'll have the scientific committee reviewing it, and then come up with a decision. So we are expecting that all things being equal, we'll make our announcements for awards late July or at worst case, early of August. So please do expect messages from us. And again, please do look out for messages in your spams or in your updates or promotions, depending on the network, the type of email you are using. So communications are sent through the system, and depending on the type of email you are using, it may end up in your spam or in your updates if it's a Gmail system you are using. So these are the timelines that we are going to be working with. So I think that will be it for the application process. If there are any questions regarding Prof. Cortez' presentation and my presentation, we are very much happy to receive them. Over to you, Ades.
Ades, Prof. Anna online. If he wants to say a word or two.
Prof. Anand, please, are you online? Professor Anand? I'm not sure.
Maybe he dropped off. Not sure. Yeah. Okay. He said he would join and drop off, so it's fine. Please take over.
Great. So this is the time for questions. Any question you have concerning the focus of the research, how to apply, who you can apply with. Prof. Anand says he's here, but he can't unmute. Ato, please, can you unmute Prof. Anand? I don't know.
Okay.
He says he's online, but he can't unmute. His name is Francis. Great. So we'll open the
just Francis.
Just Francis, yeah.
Okay.
Francis Unverified.
Okay.
Great. So we are open for questions from participants. Please, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Putting together the research, focus of the research, the kind of issues you can look at in designing your research. If you want to conduct a comparative study, as Prof. Corte said, what you can look at. Any question, we are available. Great. So we have some hands up. Evans Boydu, is your hand up for a question? We also have Tedros. Okay, you can unmute your mic and ask the question. Tedros Evans, yes.
Thank you very much. So this is Theodros from Ethiopia. My question is, first of all, thank you for the presentations. It's very informative and very organized. My question is regarding the focus of the funding. So when Professor Peter was discussing the focus of the funding, it would be mostly addressing or mainly addressing the constraints that agents face. So in our team, we are wondering if a research proposal that tries to address the demand constraint that agents face would actually be eligible for the funding. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Prof. Corte, Prof. Anand, would you take this before we take another one? Thank you.
I think I can. Okay, great. So hi everyone. Thanks a lot. I think Prof. Corte said, and everyone has said so much about what the expectations are here. But I guess, going back to the question, certainly, Refind is organized around, essentially how to not only expand into new markets, which is, what economists like to call the extensive margin, right? How do you create new markets in places where the markets are not there? Or how do you extend or set up new agents? It's one classic question that everyone is very interested in. But beyond that, conditional on creating the agent, how do you grow the market? How do you grow the agent? How do you improve the productivity of the agent? And what are the financial, inclusion implications of all of this are also questions that we are interested in. So, and what, again, economists might call the intensive margin kind of, levers to growing the market. So clearly, of course, we are remarkably interested in questions around, how to relax the constraints of the agent. Clearly, because once you do that, you not only grow kind of the performance of the agent, but also scale services in this, village economies or kind of this community. So certainly this will be one of the key things that we're excited about. What I do want to emphasize, though, is that obviously, as you could imagine, there are a lot of different constraints, right, that agents face. Some you could relax, some you couldn't. Some requires a lot of large-scale commercial partnerships, right, with the providers that offer the services, right? And so, again, thinking more carefully about, what this level of engagement might require you to do is super, super important, because those are things that we look at. How feasible, how implementable is the intervention you're proposing, doable within the context that you're looking at? And we pick a lot of signals, not only based on what you write, but also based on what, your partners inform us and all of that. So just something to have in mind.
Okay, so if I can add on to, I think Francis has said it all, but let me just add on one or two. Now, there's demand constraints. So what are the demand constraints that would, if you relax those demand constraints, will expand the retail distribution network, the agent network? Let's say insecurity. If insecurity is affecting demand and you relax that constraint, you make consumers feel secure, feel, have the knowledge, have the information that when they engage with the agent, they are safe, they are secure. That certainly can expand. So you need to carefully bring out the linkages, the transmission mechanism on how to do this. If distance is a problem that is making affecting demand, what will you do to reduce distance, to make a long distance shorter? What can you do? Is it through transportation, or is it through good road network, or communication, etc. So I believe if a demand, yes, relaxing demand constraints, that will expand the supply side. It's a good one to look at. But it depends on what specific interventions you want to bring on board. Thank you.
Okay, Evans, your hand is still up. Would you want to come in here? Aside Evans, anyone else has a question?
You can type in the chat box if you don't want to speak.
Yes.
Or, feel free to type in the chat box.
Anyone has a question? Focus, how to apply, the partners you can use, clarity of the question, your research question. You want some clarity on your research question? Please feel free.
And as we wait for more questions, let me actually uplift this conversation around Ethiopia. I want to emphasize that Ethiopia is such a very important market that Refind is very interested in. There are a lot of lessons to be learned in Ethiopia, given given how the Ethiopian market is organized and obviously from top to down. So I just want to encourage folks that are thinking of Ethiopia to think really hard about that more generally. That Refind is very excited to piggyback on projects that you're thinking about. So at any rate, see that obviously as one of the important contexts that we are very excited about because we would love to learn more.
Somebody say he cannot hear anything. Michael Tufo says he cannot hear. Michael, I suggest you look at your equipment because we can hear. Thank you.
Michael, you can always go back to the website. You will have this recording there to listen to everything again. Any other? Our colleagues from Nigeria, we have one hand up. Tedros again. You have the
Thank you very much. Sorry if I'm taking too much time. I just have one additional question. Thank you very much for the explanations on my earlier question. And we are also really interested, to send the proposals from the Ethiopian side. And we believe, yeah, it's a very good country. With lots of things currently happening in that regard. So my second question is regarding the definition of agent. If you could elaborate a bit on that, who you would see as an agent, because this could also be a bit contextual in terms of the market environment or the policy context that the country follows. So it's like those who provide SICO service or it also those SMEs or merchants that would receive payments, but also provide those other services. So if you could elaborate a bit on that, I would really appreciate. Thank you very much.
I think I'll take that. Such a spot on question. I think the whole concept of agency obviously could vary as you mentioned, right? Depends on which context or which market you look at. But a kind of the broader definition we are working on here is kind of think of any supply side infrastructure that has the ability to retail financial services. Okay, so in some markets, this will essentially be the cash in, cash out. In other markets, this may be places that you could retail other services that are not even just typically cash in, cash out. It may be other financial products. Sorry, I think I got caught up. So basically, yeah. So think of the classic, retail setting where you could retail some kind of financial services. So cash in, cash out is one way. Agent banking is another way. And under some conditions, even retailing insurance product at a corner store could be another way, right? And all of that. So anything that has got retail embedded in it, but you kind of go there and conduct financial transactions or anything that is financial. It's something that we have a kind of a working broader definition. And in fact, This may even include fintechs, right? That hand holding different players in the financial, basically market chain, right? By designing services, and all of that, from fintechs to local, retail stations that you can find in villages and other communities. So again, I want to emphasize that we have this broader definition of agency, and agency is essentially intermediation, right, of some services. And so here, anyone in a store, in a infrastructure that has the ability to retail financial services is something that we are very open to looking at. But Prof. Kote, if you want to share more light on that, you could do that. But I think that's kind of has been the classic working definition for refined more generally.
Yeah. I think you nailed it on the head. But that's exactly what we're doing. So we are open. It's a broad
We have more
definition.
questions. We have a question from GDR. I think Dr. Vider. Dr. Vider, if I have it right. Yeah. Please, you have the microphone.
And I'm answering some of them in the chat box. I think Dr. Vidra was asking about the security of the agent. And I said, yes, that's a constraint, a major constraint, which when you relax can expand the network. And there is an ongoing funded refined project in Ghana that is looking at that intervention using CCTV cameras to do this.
Atu, can you unmute everyone? Dr. Vider cannot unmute himself. Please unmute all participants.
I have done that, so he just have to unmute from his end.
Okay, Dr. Vider, you can unmute from your end. And there's another question. I just saw another question on, do you allow multi-country submission of proposals? Multi-country submission of proposals.
Yes, I think we spoke about partnering. So you can decide to partner with colleagues in different countries, if provided your budget is within the range we provided, we shared. Cross-country comparison, we haven't done much of cross-country analysis, so that is very much encouraged. The one on agent security, for instance, we have researchers in the UK and researchers in Ghana looking at that. We have some in Bangladesh, we have some in Indonesia. So multi-country partnering is encouraged, provided your budget fits into the template we share. Thank you. I don't know if Francis want to add to that.
Yeah, I can say, it's such an ambitious project to think about. One person trying to do projects in multiple countries. Certainly, we welcome it. I just want to, make sure that, typically, having a very sharply focused study, helps quite a bit. Not only in just micromanaging it, but actually your ability to actually implement it. So, but if you have the infrastructure to do cross-country stuff, certainly we love to learn across different contexts, because there's so much to be learned by comparing one very distinct context with different regulation, different market structure to another. So certainly we do encourage that. But I just want to caution that it's super encouraged to think of questions that are well defined and sharply focused, so that you don't get mad into things that you're unable to deliver. So just think about that. But I think also say we support cross-country stuff. There's so much to be learned from that space. And maybe on that, I also want to say, and this is something maybe Prof. Kote had mentioned earlier on, is please take a look at what projects that Refined is funding, including some of our sister institutions like IPA and all of that, before you submit for. So some of the constraints you mentioned.
And you are just changing the names and then the topics, and you are not changing, not even the name, not even the date.
Okay.
Square pattern wrong.
Can you mute your microphones, please? Thank you.
Yeah, I was hearing a feedback. Yeah. Okay, guys, if you are not talking maybe might be useful just for the social public good. Not okay. So I guess one thing I wanted to say is that I think I encourage everyone, those that are thinking of submitting stuff, to take a look at what we are currently funding, both at Refind and also across some of our sister institutions like IPA and JPAL. Is super important. So you don't double on effort, something that's already ongoing in a classic way. So it's kind of a good way to think of, what are the questions that people are thinking about? Is it something that fits into that? And how distinct is it? What I'm doing, how distinct is that compared to what other projects people are working on? And so, please take a look at that so that, you don't submit a proposal that ends up already being funded, right? To just duplicate efforts. But thanks a lot.
Okay. Dr. Videra, your hand is still up. You want to come again? Whilst at that, I can read some more questions. Okay. Can a research institute apply for funding for several projects at the same time? Can a research institute apply for funding for several projects at the same time?
Yeah, we don't limit how many you can apply, except that when we evaluate and it meets all the criteria, that is fine. We don't limit institutions as to how many proposals they can put in, but make sure it is of high quality, but it's very competitive. So if you are doing so many of them, you are not careful, you might not have the quality and you might miss all.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
say
I just
if you use two
good
eyes to peep into a bottle, you have problems.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, exactly was going to say that. I think you should know that there's no correlation between applying for more, submitting more applications and be successful with some, right? It's not that simple. So again, going back to my point, I would think of questions more carefully. If it's one question, or one proposal you want to work on, I'll spend a lot of time, developing that proposal, making sure that it's really good enough from start to finish, and then just have a high quality proposal that allows you to make a case for what you're doing. But certainly you are welcome to submit more than one proposal if you think the quality standards are there and they fit exactly into what Refine is looking for. Again, but there's no correlation between submitting more applications and being successful. That's kind of the point I want to emphasize.
How many institutions or teams can collaborate in one proposal if I have colleagues in different universities? Then, okay, I think can a researcher team apply? Please go on. Yeah.
Now, I was going to say there's no cap on how many co-authors you can have across institutions. In fact, we do support cross-institutional collaborations. So if you have co-authors or co-PIs in other institutions, certainly that's great. It's just that at some point, one of the institutions will be the lead institution on the project. But of course, there's a lot of learning to be done across, having co-authors or co-PIs from different institutions. So we do support that.
Great. I think that can a researcher team? I think you've answered this question. Can a research team apply for more than one project? I think you've answered it. Great.
Yeah. So thank you very much. I think you should try and apply in good time. Don't wait to the very last day. Technologies do fail. On the last day, the system is jammed or you're having connectivity issues. You become very frustrated. So allow yourself a bit of time, at least a day before the deadline or early morning on the date of the deadline is fine. Don't wait till close of day and then rush in with your proposal.